Welcome to the Just My MomSense podcast. I'm not an expert, I'm just trying to figure out parenting and in turn myself while sharing things I've learned with all of you. Hello and welcome to the Just My MomSense podcast, and I'm so glad you're here. So on this first official episode, since my last one was more of an introduction, I thought that we could talk about the 8 senses. Because if you're like me, kind of grew up knowing about the 5 senses and had no idea that there were 8. And I think once I started my deep dive into sensory processing and understanding the 8 senses better, it kind of changed my entire outlook on how I view most situations, how I see how kids are reacting out in the wild, at a store, at a playground, but also how adults are acting in various situations. It's really given me a better understanding of how people, regardless of your age, are going about their days. I've written in the blog a lot about how with sensory processing, things can be difficult in the day-to-day that so many other people take for granted. So if your child seems extra sensitive to noise, maybe they're constantly on the move, or maybe they don't notice if they're hungry or need the bathroom, then maybe after this episode, you might have a better understanding. And if I'm not helping with that, then I will also be sharing a resource and maybe that will help as well. So the senses we all learned in school: sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. You can probably already see how these things affect your child day to day, right? They may get really grossed out at a certain smell or cover their ears in a public restroom or with loud music. Maybe they absolutely hate the tags that are on their clothing. And so for some kids, their brain is receiving too much sensory information. But for others, it's not enough. So they seek out more intense input. Now let's talk about the lesser known senses, because these play a huge role in how kids can function and feel throughout the day. So those 3 senses are vestibular, proprioception, and interoception. The vestibular sense is the sense of balance and movement. This is the sense that helps us stay upright, move smoothly, understand where we are in our space. So a lot of times you may see when kids are dysregulated, their bodies are moving faster than their brain in that moment, and it's kind of hard to get everything back on track. Maybe they love spinning or hanging upside down. That means they may be seeking more vestibular input. On the other side, if they get car sick easily, or maybe they are super cautious when they're on the playground, they may be avoiding vestibular input. So a few activities that can help support vestibular input because they're in need of it could be swinging or spinning. And this can go on for as long as they can tolerate it. Sometimes just rolling on the floor or on an exercise ball. You can also have your child lie on the floor and roll an exercise ball over them. A rocking chair or rocking horses, just that back and forth motion can be great. Hanging upside down, maybe on monkey bars, maybe even on the couch while they're watching TV. Jumping on a trampoline is great. Or also just playing different types of dancing and spinning games. Something to remember is that sometimes too much vestibular input can lead to dysregulation, especially if your child is sensitive to it. So just watch how they respond, because again, even in those moments where they feel they need it, it may work for a bit, and then there needs to be a time limit there. So you know your child best. You can see how they're reacting to things. But these 3 senses that we didn't grow up learning about, they can have such an impact on your child in the day-to-day, having them focus, having them just enjoy their surroundings, and making sure they're comfortable. So that next sense, proprioception, which I always feel like I have to say slow, quite honestly, because I feel like I'm going to say it wrong. That's the sense of body awareness. So I kind of mentioned that earlier. When your child is dysregulated, sometimes their brain and bodies are not in line. This is all about where your body parts are without looking. So this is a sense that helps with coordination, pressure, and movement. Kids seeking proprioceptive input might push, crash, chew, stomp, or carry heavy things. Others may seem clumsy or unaware of their own strength. So when we think of how to support proprioceptive input, things like pushing or pulling weighted objects, so maybe a laundry basket or carrying some heavy books or pushing books across the floor, just something that uses a little bit more of their strength. Bear hugs or tight squeezes can help. Climbing, jumping, crawling through tunnels. Carrying a backpack with a bit of weight can also be great. Chewing crunchy snacks or chewable jewelry. Play-Doh, therapy, or clay activities. And also wall pushes, chair push-ups, or yoga poses like downward dog would be great for proprioceptive input. Proprioceptive input is usually organizing everything in the body, so it tends to calm and regulate kids when they're feeling dysregulated. That last sense I mentioned, interoception, that is the internal body sense. So this one can be the trickiest one. Interoception helps us understand what's going on inside our bodies. Hunger, thirst, pain, needing to use the bathroom, feeling hot or cold, even noticing when you might be anxious or overwhelmed. That can be so tricky for some kids. So if your child never seems to notice when they're hungry, maybe they have accidents, maybe they have meltdowns before they realize they were tired, interoception may be the reason. So there are some activities to help support this sense, just like the others. You could use visual timers or body checking cards to see how the child is feeling during an activity, throughout the day, or maybe as you're getting ready to transition. It's also great to talk through body signals out loud. You could say something like, "Oh, my tummy feels kind of empty. I think I might be hungry." And trying to create that sense of knowing when their bodies might feel hungry or what might be happening inside their bodies leading up to a meal. Routines are huge, so creating routines for snack time, drink breaks, bathroom reminders, super helpful. Using emotion charts and temperature scales for body feelings, so this is a great visual for kids if you have little emojis with different emotions, and maybe you have a magnet that you can move onto each one. Maybe you have a sticker. Maybe kids can just circle one on a chart or point to it. Anything to help them start understanding their emotions. Also really helpful here. Practicing mindfulness and belly breathing are huge. Kids can often get stuck in their emotions, especially if they're feeling anxious or sad, and they don't always have the tools to get themselves out of that. You know, most adults don't always have the tools to get ourselves out of it, right? And so practicing mindfulness or breathing with them and demonstrating that to them help provide the tools they need, especially if there's repetition in it, especially if you're doing it every time. It also helps to do it and practice it when you're outside of a stressful situation, just going through it in the middle of a fun activity. It's all those reminders that will help down the road as they are learning more about their emotions, their bodies, etc. Over time, kids can notice and label their body signals, which can improve their emotional regulation. When kids are babies or toddlers, their go-to is to cry. They have no idea what's going on inside their bodies. They don't know what they need or what they want. It's hard for them to communicate that. And so starting as young as you can with something like breathing, teaching them to smell a flower and blow out a candle, just these little things as they grow will start to lay that foundation so they start to understand what's going on, validating their emotions, making them feel that it's okay to be sad sometimes, it's okay to feel frustrated, and helping them process those emotions. Again, you're just laying that groundwork for as they get older, they will be more comfortable labeling it on their own and knowing what they may need in that moment. I know this may all seem like a lot and confusing because there's moments of Well, what if they need input? Okay, now they don't need that input anymore. Or what if they need this now? It's all a lot. It's all a lot to stay on top of. I get it. But once you start noticing ways your child may be communicating through their sensory needs, it opens up a whole new way to support them and also understand them. And I think in turn, it helps you understand yourself as a parent and your own emotions and your own regulation and even other adults around you. You know, I have 2 kids and I see their sensory needs and I see they both have different sensory needs at different times. I have one that needs the tag cut out of their clothing every single time, and no matter what the shirt or pants, as soon as they put it on, I need to be cutting that tag out because they can barely stand to be in that piece of clothing. I have another who really hates the seams on socks to the point where they have just melted down and been sad and didn't really realize why. But these little things can affect them in such a big way. And you know how you feel when you're uncomfortable. There's so many things that make adults uncomfortable. You might hate getting caught in the rain and with your clothes soaked and sticking to your body. You may hate loud noises as well. You might get so overstimulated at a concert or something like that. And you know how your body feels in those moments. It's exactly how they're feeling with something like a tag, with something like a seam of a sock, with something like loud music, with something like a toilet flushing. And the more you support and understand and validate, the easier things will be for them, the easier things will be for yourself. I hope this helped. If you're feeling like you want to learn more about these senses or understanding why your child may be feeling big feelings during daily activities or have a really hard time brushing their teeth or their hair, or maybe they hate getting a haircut, I would highly recommend checking out the Sensory Spectacle YouTube channel. There's also a website tied to it. Becky Liddon runs it and owns Sensory Spectacle based in the UK. She has been nice enough to write blogs for my site before. She also appeared as a guest on another podcast I had, Magical Mommy Mondays. She's awesome. She has some great videos to explain why one may have difficulties with these day-to-day activities. Of course, you can also visit my blog at justmymomsense.com, where I share how we've worked through some of these challenges and what may have worked for us. Bottom line, though, that you always need to remember is that you know your child best, you know yourself best. Trust your gut, trust that inner sense that you have, and be comfortable when you're making your decisions, and just give yourself and give your child the grace you both need to get through those challenging times. Thank you for listening. I hope this episode helped you feel a little more confident, maybe give you a better understanding of the different senses, or at least plant the seed where maybe you want to learn more. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Just My MomSense podcast. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Just My MomSense, or visit justmymomsense.com for past vlogs and a few of my favorite things. Music produced by Matt Harvey.